Video game news is the bread and butter of the show, so of course we have to talk about the Halo devs dropping a blog confronting all the issues that the player base had with the gameplay reveal trailer. But we have that and more coming up on this week's episode of Don't Give a Bit. What is going on, guys? I'm Deshaun over at Don't Give a Bit, and if you love video game news as much as I do, be sure to hit that subscribe button. That way you can stay informed on the video game happenings every week. Now, moving right into our first segment, we have our Pop Quiz Hotshot. Now, of course, Pop Quiz Hotshot is our trivia segment where we give you a question, you answer it down in the comment section below, and we give you the answer at the end of the show. So this week's question is...
And sticking with the Halo theme for just one more week, a little fun fact for you. When Halo was introduced at Macworld Expo in 1999, Apple co-founder Steve Jobs set for a release on a Macintosh. Bungie was then bought out by Microsoft. However, what kind of game was Halo originally supposed to release as? A, a third-person shooter, B, a racing game, C, an action puzzler, think of Myst, or D, a real-time strategy? Go ahead and put your answers down below, and we will give you the answer at the end of the show.
Now that you have those answers all nice and locked in the comment section below, we can move right into our second segment, Plays of the Game. Now, of course, Plays of the Game is where you, the viewer, submits a clip that you want to showcase to the world. We put it here, we link back to your channel, everybody enjoys it, and we all have some fun. So this week's video is submitted by Dr. DP, who doesn't have a YouTube channel just yet, but he wanted to go ahead and showcase his clip anyways.
Now, I know World of Warcraft is a little hard to follow, so the only thing you need to pay attention to is the red arrow and the high numbers. Let's go. Now, starting off, it warms my heart to see so many Warlocks in one game. Oh, it does well. It does my heart well. And look at that. Chaos Bolt for the high damage. Into the death. Here comes the boom, baby. Get that fear off, get that Chaos Bolt off, and then look at this. You love to see it. That beautiful meteor finishing off the game and putting them into the 1800 bracket.
Now, I say it every week and I'm going to continue to say it. If you dominate the game and you make it look easy, go ahead and submit your clip, show it to us. Or if you're failing at the game and you just want to laugh at it, go ahead and send it over to us. Either way, we'll enjoy it. Now, of course, like I said, video game news is the bread and butter, so we have to get into our third segment, Week Back Recap. Now, of course, Week Back Recap is where we go through the video game news you need to know about, give you a quick happening of what's been going on in the past week. Now, we have to start off with the most important one, at least the most important to me. This was the Halo devs making a blog post that actually confronts all the concerns that the players had with the gameplay reveal trailer. Now, of course, if you remember last week, Xbox showcased its first gameplay of Halo Infinite, and people were underwhelmed. I said my opinions on the matter last week, and we won't go back into that, but overall people were pretty underwhelmed. The game didn't look like it was next generation gameplay, and the devs actually addressed a lot of these issues. They said, hey, look, we're going for a specific Halo classic look. Now, as for the models themselves, they even agreed that the models looked plain and washed out and bland, and they said they're going to address that. Now, the question is, how much addressing can you do this late in the game? I mean, we're talking about a game that's supposed to be released in the next like 5 or 6 months. So what can they really do to polish it up that much? Now, they did also answer some other questions such as like the grappling hook and how it would work in multiplayer. And while they didn't go into too much detail about that, they did announce that it was going to be different mechanics compared to that of single player. They also mentioned that fan favorite battle rifle would make a return and some other cool stuff. So I do recommend checking out the entire blog post. I'll go ahead and put that in the comment section below. But I think the most important thing from this is the transparency. I absolutely love the transparency by the developers and the fact that they are addressing their concerns and said, hey, we saw what you guys were saying. We agree with some of it, and this is our answer to it. I think that's a huge mark. Now, staying with Halo news, but going into the other facet of it, the multiplayer is free. Now, this was just announced over Twitter by the Halo official Twitter that the multiplayer is actually going to be free to play. Now, this is a genius move if you ask me. Why? Because look at Call of Duty Warzone. Look at how much fanfare that has. Look at Fortnite. Look at Apex. Look at all these free-to-play multiplayer games. It is a genius move. You get a player base that is constantly going to be there. The Forge is already one of the most loved things in Halo, and now if you have constant players to constantly engage with, you have a game that can live way past its shelf life. Now, Halo Infinite is supposed to have a 10-year platform cycle, so who knows if that's actually going to be the case, but I do like the fact that it's going to be free to play, so anyone can hop right in and enjoy the game. And with it coming day and date on Game Pass, releasing on Steam, I think this is a genius move. The only concern I have with this is the fact that they talked about microtransactions. I'm curious to see how much microtransactions actually plays a role in the game. We've seen games like Grand Theft Auto and Overwatch having a, kind of predatory or schemy ways about going with microtransactions, but then you have a lot of free-to-play games that just use microtransactions as a way to give cosmetics, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. That's fine there. So as long as they play it safe, I'm okay with that. Now moving into our next story, Splinter Cell is making a return. Well, kind of. It's getting an anime, which is kind of cool, exclusive to Netflix. Now, Splinter Cell anime doesn't really go together. There's never been an anime for Splinter Cell, but the idea that this anime is going to be made by the writers of John Wick, that's really cool. We know Sam Fisher is pretty much a killing machine. We love it. And that being made on Netflix could be a cool thing. Now going right into the next thing, Grounded has found a ton of success. Within 48 hours, over 1 million players. Now, if you're not familiar with Grounded, Grounded is the survival game that takes a lot of inspiration from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yes, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Everyone's 90s favorite shrinking kids movie, if there's any other movies that are shrinking kids, but that's irrelevant. But it looks fun, it looks enjoyable, and the fact that you can play it right now on Game Pass means that you should. You probably should. If you get a chance to play it, go ahead and do that. But so far it's found a lot of love, a lot of praise, and Obsidian's done a great job. Now Obsidian, I talked about it last week, Obsidian is trying new things with their IPs, creating new IPs, and they are a loved developer. So the fact that they created a survival game that people are engaging with and loving already gives me a lot of hope for their upcoming RPG, Avowed. Obsidian, keep doing what you're doing. And lastly, in video game news, Cuphead had a surprise release on PS4. Now, if you're not familiar with Cuphead, you need to be. Cuphead is one of the best platformers out there. It's a little bit difficult, but it's a very fun and engaging game. The art style is absolutely beautiful, and we're supposed to be getting the Delicious Last Course DLC sometime soon, but who knows when that happens. And there's also a Netflix show coming out. So if you haven't gotten a chance and you have a PS4 and you've been waiting up until now to play it, play Cuphead. You will love it, I promise. Now that wraps up our week back recap, we can go right into our next segment, When We Last Spoke. Now, of course, When We Last Spoke is our discussion piece where you submit a question or we find a question off the internet, we talk about it, and I give you my opinions on it. So, this week's question.
Now, this week's question is brought to us by Reddit user Onion Scooper, and he asks, why is toxicity in online gaming communities accepted as the norm? I've slowly come to realize that whenever toxicity is brought up in any online game, the responses are always about muting the toxic behavior, but that means we are just tolerating it, not actually trying to fix it. Another common defense includes, this is just a normal level of toxicity, and other things that try to establish the normalcy of bad behavior.
Now, the reason why I like this question is because toxicity and gaming are almost synonymous at this point. Now, don't get me wrong, gaming communities do some of the best, most charitable work out there. If you haven't seen Games Done Quick, please check that out. Or any of these other charity events. I'm talking about the adaptive controller from Xbox and all these other fantastic things with gamers. But at the same time, with anonymity, there are toxic jackasses. You just can't deny that. Now the question is, why do we allow this, or why do we accept it? Because if you talk to anybody about toxicity in gaming, the very first thing they'll tell you is, that's the internet. Well, that sucks. That's not how gaming should be. I shouldn't put on my headset and then know that I'm gonna get called different slurs simply because of my title, my name, my gamer tag, or anything else, my voice, or whether or not it's a girl playing or a guy, or they have a preference, it's not okay. No one should be attacked, especially in a platform that they're supposed to be relieving their stress, they're supposed to be enjoying. That's not okay. So the question is, how do we fix that? Well, it starts at the developers. And I'm not gonna say that it only falls on the developers, but it does start at the developers. The developers need to identify the fact that, hey, people who play our game may be using slurs or may be saying things that are just not okay. So we need to make sure that we enforce rules and bans and other restrictions to make sure that they don't use those slurs. So that's where it starts at. Then it goes to the players themselves. The players have to police each other. Instead of just muting the person, call them out, say something. Because while one person saying something may not have an effect, When you have your peers starting to call you out on your toxic behavior, you're either going to stop hanging out with them or correct your behavior. And if you're a good friend, you're probably just going to correct your behavior. Because who wants to be a toxic person online, and who wants to be around toxicity? And lastly, I think it comes with maturity. A lot of kids are just being kids, and that's not okay. Don't get me wrong, I'm not using that as an excuse, but it does take time for kids to grow and understand what they're doing and why they were doing wrong. I'm sure right now, anybody watching this can go back like 7 years and look at what they used to type online and just be disgusted with what they find. We grow, we learn, and we change from that, and that's okay. But let's start that change now. We love games. Everyone loves games. So let's take the toxicity out of it. Sure, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's not going to be a couple year thing. But maybe in the future, we can work towards a gaming platform or a gaming space that we just all enjoy being in. And we don't have to worry about muting our mic or screaming at somebody or walking out the door because we can't play this game because it's just too toxic. I'm looking at you, League of Legends. I'm looking at you, League of Legends. I'm looking at you, League of Legends. So that's my views on it. And let me know how you feel about toxicity in gaming. Put it down in the comment section below. Have you been affected by it? Do you know a solution? What are the causes? Am I being over dramatic? Let me know down in the comment section below. But before we go, I want to give you the answer to the pop quiz question. If you said real-time strategy, you are absolutely correct. What would a racing Halo game even look like? Maybe a couple warthogs. We all used to do that. Hop in the warthogs and just race each other. So I guess it could work. Now let me know your feelings on the things we talked about today. Were you impressed with the Halo release? Did the trailer do anything for you? Do you think the concerns of the player base were valid? What about Cuphead? Have you played Cuphead? Do you intend to play it on PS4 now? Because I'm telling you, if you haven't, you definitely should. And lastly, have you checked out Grounded? And if you did check out Grounded, give me your review of it. I haven't had a chance to play it yet. I do have Game Pass. I will be checking it out. But let me know how you feel about it. And until next week, stay tuned, stay pretty, and be like me. They shall. That's not actually my ending slogan. I'm just going to leave that in here. Do what it do, baby. Do what it do, 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 what it do. Do what it do, what it do, what it do. Do what it do, what it do.